Hey, Michael.
Hello, Rich. Hello, Martin.
Martin hasn't popped in yet.
So how'd you like that sensor-fused weapon, Rich?
I'll tell you what, um, scary stuff.
It's been banned, I think, worldwide. The Geneva group got together, whatever. They basically said there's too much risk if it doesn't if the skeets don't go off. A year later, a kid could pick it up and it'll blow up in their hand. And I guess that's happened in Iraq.
Yeah.
I first saw the
So,
Textron systems in the 90s, Rich. And then I think they used it during the Gulf War. But Textron Systems had a great video. They took it down years ago. It was similar to the last video I sent you. They call it Clean Battlefield.
wow.
Scary, yeah. I guess a B-1 can carry hundreds of these things. And on March 6th, the video I sent you was March 6th. There was one of our Navy vessels that was under threat from like 150 boats from Iran, and this thing wiped them all out.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that you'd use a bomber to defend a battleship, right? Or a
Well,
destroyer.
that's the thing about air superiority, and most aircraft carriers have jamming techniques and so forth. But when boats come across the Strait of Hormuz, the jamming I think works in the air, and they weren't depending on electronic signals. They were visually going to attack this Navy vessel. So,
Well,
but
yeah, of
it's
course.
a great
Sure. Yeah.
example of all three agencies working together, just like the SEALs.
Yeah, there was a post a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about, the drone technology and how it's advanced and et cetera. And um, for some reason, it made me think of, what would happen if one of these $20,000 drones successfully penetrated, the air defenses of, the um, Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, right? And were able to do significant or total damage to that, right? I mean, there's a $20,000 weapon against a $13 billion vessel, right?
It's like the mines in the straits, Rich. A $300 mine can take out a $100 million Navy vessel, so, or $100 million super tanker, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hello, people. Ca-
Hello,
Can you hear
Martin.
me? Can you hear me? I'm now sitting in front of my computer, but I'm doing the my participation on my smartphone because Roland said last week that my smartphone is better than my usual computer. So how is it? We can compare now. How's my audio?
The computer's fine, Martin. You're just fine.
Okay, but now I'm on my smartphone, which is also not bad because then
Yeah,
I can.
your phone is much better, Martin.
Oh, really?
Oh
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so much about that. So, yeah, I heard you talking about the Iran war, right? Is there anything that I should know or that we should know that we don't know yet? Because I'm actually I stopped following this thing.
Well, we were talking about the mines and the straits, Martin.
Okay.
So, over the next couple of weeks, the key is how many mines are there and can we find them and are they still a threat to all the vessels? So, the Iranians could open the straits, but if the mines are still there and they're armed, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
that could be a problem.
many uncertainties, and so you can also see it here. For example, just today, the ship traffic between Indonesia and Singapore has been reduced remarkably. So the passenger, the ferries that ferry workers from Indonesia to Singapore and back on a daily basis. So that became quite expensive. Then also the airlines, the budget airlines in the region, they doubled the ticket price from 1st of May onwards. And yeah, everybody can see that one. I'm a bit, how to say, not really. No, I'm among those who are more relaxed because we, as long as the internet is up, our firm is okay because we work from home office anyway. So we don't even have a proper office where with desks where people would meet on a daily basis. We do everything online. So
You don't have an office in Germany?
we have an office in Germany, but it's actually we share with a friend of mine a law firm, and we just rent for as many desks as we need to have there, and it's actually one, and we never use the meeting room because all our clients are online. I even yeah, so much about innovation. I even went to see a client 2 years ago. And then he said, "Why are you here?" And then I asked, I thought it's good, right? If you see me that I'm alive and you're alive, and so on. Said, yeah, okay, but do me a favor, please go to the meeting room. I go back to my desk, and then we have a Teams meeting, which I did, right? And after the Teams meeting, we went for lunch together.
Right,
And,
right.
and he said, I prefer the Teams because then I have my computer, I can show you all the documents and everything is at hand. But when we are in a meeting room, I would need to take notes and we don't have a transcript, it's complicated. So let's do the online meeting while you're here and later we go for a lunch, which we did. And then yeah, so much about meeting rooms with
Hey,
lawyers.
Martin, I have a few questions for you. The
Yes.
first one is the status of the lectures at TUM,
Yes.
and then secondly, thank you. Then secondly, the for the course material from Dick Lee's
Yes.
material. What were you thinking in that regard?
Okay.
I was thinking along the line of, the three questions and
Yes.
and then there's also, 6 other questions, right?
Yes.
So that's what I
Okay.
was thinking.
So the status for the TUM Asia lectures is as follows. The lectures are there I mean, they are ready. Not ready in a sense that the content is ready, but the framework is there. We didn't start with the marketing because I didn't feel that it's complete enough to be started, and we got a lot in addition to what we had already with respect to the lower left quadrant of the Ansoff matrix. And but I can see that we are now much more mature, and my plan is to start this, and probably anytime soon. And I was just waiting because tomorrow there would be a decision. When is a large event for German Mittelstand companies from Germany coming to Singapore and Malaysia, and that would start also the marketing for the entire system, the entire ecosystem, the entire platform, if you want to say so, because we want to enroll those Mittelstand companies not only into a program that brings them to Asia, but also to give them insight in how to do innovation. And that lecture series would be a ring lecture series, and I would encourage that every one of them would take part there and learn more about innovation also from a theoretical point of view. So it all comes together. Then after the book project with Bruce didn't materialize, I'm translating my own 4x4 so that I have something to present in German language. And that is also resumed, and the publishing house is also on their toes for that. So it's a bit like is all the components are 95% ready, and we just need to kick it off. So much about the planning. So the lecture is only part of a much bigger platform. Credentilix is also a part of that. The financing, because you can of course finance innovation over that, and then there are a few other components that come together. But now to the content of the Dick Lee, the Value Innovation Works. My plan was that to do an ICI on a larger scale and to give you the ICI so that you can present that concept to the audience there. And that would also give you a better feeling on how the lecture can be structured, and you get some feedback from the participants on how they like it. Because I mean, you can either set up a whole Value Innovation Works course or just one packed lecture together with a lab if you want, and then promote that component on your own. If that is something to which you are agreeable, then we can do that. And the ICI can be as soon as in June if you want, or in July.
Yeah, in June would work.
Okay.
Um,
We have one ICI later this month, I believe, is with Chris Herring. I don't know whether he's in the talk today, because he's every now and then he comes in. No, I don't see him. He would tell us about the situation in China currently, with an emphasis on the car industry, but not only that. Yeah. So the next ICI would be run by Chris Herring, and then the next one after that can be done by you.
okay.
Sounds good?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll plan enough material for
Yeah.
like anywhere from 60 to 70 minutes, and then
Yes,
have
yes.
time for Q&A.
Yeah. Yes, yes. And then you can share also, because you're one of the apostles, right? Of late Dick Lee. And you can share what he brought to the table and why he was so special with this and how he found this. I would find that interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. And just to share with you, and for those here who do not know what Value Innovation Works is I would say, a quite unique way to empower companies to improve their conversion from lead into a closed deal. Is this correct?
Well, I mean, that sounds a little bit more marketing-ish. It's really just market discovery
Okay.
and identifying, the most important customer,
Okay.
and then translating, their wants and needs into a framework that would allow you to, land a deal with them and close a deal with them.
Yes. So it's a much better preparation. You know already those those companies that would need your product or service, right? But then the question is, how do you need to structure the product or service so that it would attract the attention of the right people who can
Yeah, exactly.
right? That's what I understood. And
Yeah, that's correct.
yeah, and I give you also an example, because I use it today in my own firm, because we have a marketing and sales team, and they struggled in deciding how to prioritize inquiries and also um, um, direct marketing response targets. Um, and we have two criteria for them. One criteria follows a 5 point approach that, among others, determines whether these companies have a bleeding neck, which means something that needs to be addressed, and whether they have money to spend for that. And if both is not there, then actually they are disqualified from the beginning. But if they have, then a few other criteria would apply. And then the next thing is how to determine the right person to talk with. Because there would always be people that are interested in your product and they see a value. But if they are not the ones who have to pay if the problem is not fixed, then the motivation is very low that they would promote your product, because actually it's not really relevant for them whether it's solved or not. They may see the value, but they say, okay, if it's too inconvenient, then I don't know whether I want to go there, because I really don't have a problem if it's not fixed. It would cost more, or it's a hassle, but it is not really my problem, because in my area everything runs well, and that's a disqualifier, for example. Or the person who sees the value is not in charge of fixing the problem, but someone else is, and there might even be an internal skirmish result from him engaging into that. I've seen that in other law firms where the partners share responsibilities, and if one partner interferes in an area where the responsibility of another partner is, then that could get into very fierce battles between those two departments.
Yeah.
And these questions are usually never asked by sales guys or by marketing guys. And I find waking up that awareness is really valuable. And again, when we talk here about innovation, I find the longer we do this, the more I realize that it is all about communication, and it's not about R&D. It's to bring the various people in a company together to pull in the same direction.
Yeah, it's alignment.
Yes, and you need to talk in the same. Just today, for example, because we have services, and my firm has services that are valuable for direct clients, and a direct client is a company that has a problem. When they innovate, then they need freedom to operate studies, and they also need some IP protection, and then we have clients who are other IP firms who have direct clients, and those and my marketing team asked me, is this B2C or is it B2B? And I thought it's both B2B, right? But it's two different targets, and they have different bleeding necks and different different motives to purchase our services. And so we had to redefine. No, it's not B2C, it's all B2B, but it's two different segments of our clients, our customers, if you want. I don't even know what the difference between customer and client is, but it's more or less the same from my perspective and as we approach. But yeah, so and we found out that we need to find definitions that we use for better communicating when we do our work, when we promote our products. So
having a lexicon is
yes,
really important.
Yep.
Without that, you're screwed.
Yeah, we have none. So we operated for a very long time with marketing people without standardizing our language.
Yeah.
And no wonder that there's that it doesn't work as it should. And so I realized what we do here is talking a lot and looking at similar innovation problems from different perspectives with different backgrounds, and ultimately we come here together this 1 hour per week, which I enjoy very much, and we get alignment by discussing various problems. That's ultimately also the lecture, right? What is about. The lecture would bring different views from different perspectives on innovation. And I still find using the Ansoff matrix is the most helpful coordinate system when I look at innovation.
Yep.
Yeah, it was you who brought that into the discussion. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's really a pivotal tool. And most of the time, people are not using it to its full potential
Yes.
because very rarely do they map their current offerings against it and the offerings that they have coming in the pipeline.
Uh-huh.
And, they don't think about it. They think of, Ansoff as being, something to do, a little bit later. And that's, you need to do all three. You need to look at it from your portfolio standpoint, your existing portfolio.
Yes.
And look for gaps, right?
Uh-huh.
And then map the pipeline products and technologies and where do they fall? Because most often you don't end up with a balanced portfolio. You end up with a lot of incremental innovations that are populating the pipeline.
Yes. And I had, if I can share, in my family there's a brewery, right? And I'm almost pestering my cousin to innovate because worldwide the beer consumption goes back, and it's not something that only happens in US. It also happens in Asia and also in Europe. And as he has a brewery in Europe, a well-established one, but still they see that sales of beers is going back, and it went. So I believe that the revenue from the pure beer is 40% less as compared with 7 years ago. And
Wow.
yeah, and just today the German government admitted that the German Mittelstand is getting into rough waters. Especially the car industry. And if you remember, we talked about that 1 year ago, right? And so now it's really official. And by the end of the year, they think that there's about 1 million workplaces lost in Germany. It's not that these workplaces are gone; they're just in other countries. And that is a major impact for Germany. Is comparable to the end of the coal mining in the Ruhrgebiet, what happened about 50 years ago. Only the older ones would remember that. And that was almost a catastrophe for that region of Germany because the cities lost all their income. And now
Wow.
the same is happening of what happened 50 years ago with the coal is now happening in the car industry, and especially in Stuttgart. Stuttgart, the Mercedes and Audi factories are there. And so Stuttgart, as a city of Stuttgart, it lost almost the entire income from the car industry, which was something like 1 billion a year, which is a lot for a city with, I don't know how many inhabitants Stuttgart has, but my guess is something like 500,000 or so. And so they had a 1 billion company tax revenue from Mercedes alone. And this 1 billion is now elsewhere. I don't know where, but not in Stuttgart anymore. And yeah, so and today I saw that the German Minister of Economics, she announced she made this public, and it's now really in the newspaper everywhere. And so we are just right with our initiative. Actually, we should be a bit faster, but I mean things are as they are. So
Say, Martin Michael here. How far is
Yes.
Singlefingen from Stuttgart? I toured the plant in Singlefingen. It's huge.
Yeah. Yes,
How
yes.
far, how many kilometers from Stuttgart?
Actually, I know Sindelfingen because we worked for IBM and they were there as well. And if as far as I remember, it should be something like 20 miles.
So the jobs lost in Stuttgart, those people just had a bit longer commute, right?
Yeah, true.
That's, yeah,
Yeah, but
you can't just count one plant. You got to look at the size of Singlefingen. It's probably 10 times bigger, right?
yeah, but even probably Sindelfingen is probably worse off than Stuttgart. But Stuttgart has the headquarter, the Mercedes headquarter, and that's where they accumulated the revenues. So the plant Sindelfingen surely has not written any invoice.
But in terms of job loss, so Stuttgart is just the office, or is there manufacturing there?
Um, I would see it Germany-wide. The job loss is okay. These are the figures. In Germany, in 2017, 5 million cars were built. And in 2025, until March, just before the tariffs from US triggered in, this number went back to 4.2 million. And of the 5 and 4.2 million cars, about 1 million was sold within Germany. And so Germany has about 2 or 3 million new cars per year, and 1/3 of them was made in Germany, and the other 2/3 will come from outside Europe, US, or Asia. And the export, while the domestic sales for German cars remained stable over the years, the export went down, and alone in 1 month by 20%, because the US tariffs made it impossible to sell cars made in Germany in the US. And so 20% of the export, which is 3 million, is about 600,000 cars per year, are no longer sellable in the US, which means that the manufacturers reacted and they just reduced the number of cars produced. And that means that they had to lay off people. They sent half of them in retirement packages, other got layoff packages. And yeah, so my guess is something like 300,000 jobs were lost because of layoffs, and the other 300,000 because of people are retiring. Because coincidentally, the boomers are now starting to retire in Germany. The last boomers, and so half of the layoffs the companies were able to make without having a layoff. They just sent them into some early retirement. Like Jürgen Brügel, he is not here today, but he's one of them. So these are the facts. In just 1 month, the German car export shrank by 20% last year. And it goes down further because the car manufacturers do not invest into new plants built in Germany. So when certain builds of cars are no longer made, but they need some I don't know, a new design or improvement, and so which requires a new plant to be built or new machines to be built. Those machines are not built up in Germany but elsewhere. And simply because energy is also too expensive. Say again. Rich, did you say something? I heard something in the background. No?
Oh, no, that was me just moving the phone. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, no worries. So, and that is now very official. And the different from the OEMs, the big car manufacturers and the big suppliers, all the small suppliers, those with 50 people and less, they cannot simply do the same thing, and they need to innovate. And as I said, right, like my cousin's brewery, they need to invent. And so we were thinking, what what could they do? And then I told him about my insights into healthy living and what people want. And and he said, look, the drink that you have in mind is something that has um, a very short shelf life. Because if it's probiotic, then these are live bacteria. And probiotic is something that people want because they want to live more healthy. So it's like a yogurt. And the yogurt expires in 2 or 3 weeks. So shelf life, 3 weeks for a product. And if you compare shelf life of a beer is 6 months. And they see that this is a major problem. And if you map it in the Ansoff matrix, you immediately see where this leads. This is really a non-incremental innovation in the first place because breweries deal with fermenting a malt into beer, and it's not fermenting milk or bacteria in that sense, right? So they would need to change the basic ingredients already. And also the market is different because in Germany, the probiotics are all sold in special stores like Whole Foods. I believe that comes closest. Whole Foods is a US chain that sells this sustainable products, right? The bio products. Is it called Whole
Yeah,
Foods?
yeah, Whole Foods and
Yeah, I like Whole
um,
Foods very much. It's really I find but in Germany there is no such thing like Whole Foods. And and what they went for now is they found a way to brew beer that is done in 1 day. So it's fermented within 1 day, zero alcohol, and it tastes like beer, it looks like beer, but and it has zero alcohol from the beginning, so they do not need to extract the alcohol, and they mix it together with a lemonade that gives a very popular drink in Germany. It's called Radler. I don't know if you have a lemon lemonade and you mix it with beer, then you get a special taste. Some people like it very much. I don't, but that's a very common drink and very refreshing in Germany. And so they went for that, and the innovation for them was that they introduced a new yeast in order to brew that beer, and you needed a special adapter for supplying air during the fermentation process from the bottom of the tank. And that device was very, I mean, is something like a 5-digit investment, of which half was paid by the government as a subsidy for helping the small and medium-sized companies in Germany. And if you look in the Ansoff matrix, this is an incremental R&D invention, and you keep the same market, and that's it. And for them, this was much more viable than thinking about a new product that comes with a new market and new supply chain and new possibly containers, bottles or whatever and whatever and whatever. And when I look at it, he was a bit, how to say, almost defensive when we talked about that, because he knows that I was trying to show him other options that he can open. And for him, that was just the right thing to do in that situation. And I understand that because he can now make a simple beer for this mix drink in 20% of the time, and he saves the extra costs for extracting the alcohol. And the fact that there's more maltose in the beer brewed. Maltose is the sugar in starches. I don't know. I'm not a chemist, but it's something that bacteria feed on, and they convert that into alcohol. And that doesn't happen with the new yeast, the new bacteria. So that sugary or that starchy part remains within the result, the alcohol-free beer. And that doesn't matter because they mix it with a sweet lemonade anyway. So the fact that it's not as healthy as it could be doesn't really matter because it comes with sugar anyway. So that for him that was not a disadvantage, and I would not know which tool to use for analyzing that innovation if not the Ansoff matrix. Was I clear enough, or do I need to describe it from another angle?
So this adapter that you're talking about
Yes.
to supply the air to the tank, that's interesting. So I'm wondering if it's in the pharmaceutical industry, there's an airbed device that's used for mixing different chemicals, for pharma, and they call it a fluid bed, right?
Yes.
But I'm wondering if that kind of
Yeah.
parallels what
Yes,
they
yes.
did.
It has to do, I mean, is chemical engineering, and I know even the company that makes that adapter.
Who is it?
A schoolmate of mine is the CTO in that company, and you could build the same adapter yourself, or you go to a local plumber, and if they know what they do and they can work with stainless steel, then it would be easy to make. But that company has it ready so that you can install it within a day, and then you're good to go. And so I told him, so, but yes, now you have an innovation, good. I wouldn't look down on that because it's only incremental. Because as a small and medium-sized company, you really need to look at the costs, and you don't invest so much so easily when you can squeeze out some costs here and there. And I believe this is what they did. So I asked him, so, but if other breweries do the same thing, then you would lose your competitive advantage, right? And then
Yeah.
he said, yes,
All right.
you're right, but I have never thought about that. And it's also not necessary because I can increase my production by a factor of 5. And the whole thing is paid within a few months.
Yeah, the firm that I'm thinking of that does it for pharma is a German company. It's called Glatt, Glatt.
Glatt.
Yeah,
It means smooth, smooth.
Yeah.
I know.
and
The company that does that one is called Krones, Krones.
oh yeah,
Surely a big client from Parker. I can.
well, yeah, I know them, not from Germany, but from the US.
Uh-huh. I
Yeah.
knew the founder, Hermann Kronzeder. He passed away a long time ago. Yeah, because we did some patents for him, and he was so much older, and he took me not for full because I was only 29 or so, and he said, "Come, boy, I will show you a few things." And then we went through. Yeah. So it was now 32 years later. The company still exists. Yeah, but they do that, and for them I believe for them is a good piece of innovation, which was non-incremental because they had to cooperate with the yeast manufacturer, and then they had to run some tests, and for an equipment company is surely not normal. And Krones was specializing in bottling, so they are experts in bottling beer into bottles and get the bottles cleaned and controlled so that there's no that mouse found in a beer bottle when you open it, and other things. So, and they went into the chemical engineering area and thermodynamics to provide that fluid bed or that air bed to make that fermentation happen. So I believe for them it was quite an effort. But for the next level down, it's incremental innovation because they buy this adapter and they get the yeast, and they do the beer. And for them, the most important thing is what the outcome. Is it good or not? Can you drink it? And everybody was not convinced because they thought, come on, we used 5 days to produce that. Must be of much better quality than if you make the same thing in 1 day only. And but they say that it's very good, very drinkable, and of course it has the sweet taste of alcohol-free beer that you know from other areas. But if you mix it together with a lemonade to achieve this special drink, then for them is okay, and you don't. And you have an
Did I just
alcohol.
hear you call it a special drink and not beer, not a shanty?
Yeah, I believe that comes closest. Yes, is a lemon shanty. Is it shanty?
That's what we would
In
call it, yes.
Ireland, they
Beer
call
and
it a
lemonade.
shandy.
Yeah.
It's called a
Yeah.
shandy in Ireland.
Okay. In Bavaria, it's called Radler, and it's because you drink it when you Radl means bicycle in Bavarian, and Radler is a drink for cyclists. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, but again, I
Martin?
find. Yes. Go ahead, Roland.
One question. I was a little bit puzzled when you said he multiplied his output. So the market completely absorbed the large amounts suddenly produced by this company. I mean, Radler, of course, I know it as a German and as a Bavarian, but it's a popular drink, and there are many suppliers for
Yes.
Radler. So I guess your cousin's company has some really reputation, Schweiger beer, and so.
Yes.
So if they offer something new, it will be readily absorbed, but didn't they have any problems with competition? Like, okay, there's only so much Radler you can drink. No problems?
What I can tell you is that the production capacity for alcohol-free drinks is the bottleneck. So while the alcoholic drinks, the consumption goes back dramatically, the consumption of non-alcoholic drinks goes up dramatically as well, and it compensates for the income loss. And those companies, I mean, so my cousin is very inventive, and he invented many different beers. He has crafts beers that you cannot easily buy. For example, he made a beer that is toasted by lowering red hot steel bars into the tank after making the beer, and that gives some burnt taste that is very unique. And the color is also black, so it's dark beer, but it's really dark because of the coal particles that are created when you burn it like that. Yeah, and he has other stuff, so he's inventing all the time, and because he's doing that, he has already a number of drinks that are alcohol free, and he says that while the production of the alcohol beers, alcoholic drinks, goes down, he can easily compensate that by making non-alcoholic ones. And for him, the bottleneck is now find non-alcoholic beers or non-alcoholic drinks that have a nice taste, not so sweet. And I can tell you from the comparison in Bavaria alone, a large number of breweries have to close down because the only non-alcoholic drink they have is the lemonades alone. And you cannot simply mix lemonade with beer and then fill it into bottles and then sell it as shandy, because there's some special requirements for the process so that the thing has a long shelf life, and you must optimize here and there. So it's really not straightforward to generate a new drink. But he is successful in that, and he's open for that. And they're quite agile in reacting to the market demands, while other breweries are not. And I believe when we address the small and medium-sized enterprises in Germany, the Mittelstand, in the automotive supplier area, we will see the same effect. There would be many who are impossible to survive.
Say,
Because
Martin,
yes,
is Leinenkugel a German company? Because they're very famous for their summer shanty, per Joe's comment. Leinenkugel, isn't that a big German company?
yeah, but you forget that I left Germany 25 years ago, and
Yeah, but
I'm
I'll spell it for you. Leinenkugel. It sounds very Deutsch.
yeah, maybe.
It's a big seller in the United States, especially they call it springtime or summer shanty. It's lemonade and beer mixed together. Maybe there's
Uh-huh.
some proprietary recipe, but it's a big
And
seller.
and you can also believe me, I'm not drinking such nonsense. I drink either beer or I drink wine, but I will not drink some sweet drink that has beer taste and lemonade taste and no alcohol.
Well,
Something
you
is,
said it's difficult to produce, and this company's been making it for decades.
yeah, I mean, once you have the line running with all chemistry, all chemical engineering thing, once it's running, then it's all about keeping it within the specification, and then it would work. But you cannot take a simple small brewery with 3 people and they're making, I don't know, um, the output for 10,000 households, and there are such breweries in Germany, many actually. And you cannot simply tell them now from tomorrow onwards you do 20% of your production with a shandy, because you can believe that the place where they are, they already have shandy, but from other sources. And just because they come up with a shandy, not everyone would switch to that specific drink. While in times when, or like my cousin, he's serving, I would say, maybe 20% of the Munich city with drinks. Yeah, which is 200,000 people or maybe 400,000, some in that area. So if their people decide to drink less alcoholic beer, and replace it with something else, they would just buy the same brand and take what is already there. And to those that decide only today, 20 years after my cousin did so, to go into the same market, they would find some saturation already from the other older breweries in the same region. So but again, I find it quite teaching, because I believe that we will see the same thing when we will talk with the German Mittelstands companies. And it will start soon in May already. After, I know, coming back to where we started, there would be this forum in uh, in Singapore, and tomorrow it will be decided when it is and when it is going to happen, and then we will start to invite these companies. And the German government has even a subsidy for such small companies to look overseas to do market development. So, and we are just offering a perfect platform for that. And yeah, so it's a push-pull, and the German government helps those companies to look into other markets. And I mean, there are not many that you can address. Those people that those companies that decide that they suddenly want to sell their products in China, they would be surprised, because China, I don't think it's possible to easily open a company in China and then sell your services or products there, because it's really a very competitive environment, price-wise and also regulation-wise. You need to know the devils there, and so a bit easier the US, I believe, but I can't really tell, because it's too far from me. But what I know is that Southeast Asia, that would work. It's just how you do it. And yeah, so this is where I'm coming from. Yeah. Roland, what's your opinion as a German?
About non-alcoholic drinks, beer, or what?
Know about
No.
the difficulties that those small and medium-sized companies are facing. And because
Yeah,
I tell you, right? So even my very inventive cousin preferred the incremental innovation over the non-incremental one. because he saw a way to grow there.
Yeah, he had
Also,
a, yeah.
he sees the value in non-incremental. So he tried out the milk-based drinks, but he says, sorry, it's a different concept of business.
I think he would love kombucha. Flavored fermented teas. It kind of gives a beer-like fermenting flavor to it, but it ends up being like a lower sugar tea.
Mhm.
Great
Okay.
for breakfast.
And no alcohol.
Well, no, like the smallest tiny bit because there might be the hint of side fermentation, but no intended alcohol.
Yeah. I can see. Yeah, kombucha is then fermented tea. Yes, I know. It's quite big in Singapore. You find it everywhere.
Say,
Yeah,
Martin,
but
to change subjects here, Martin, last week you said you were going to talk about your test for entrepreneur and serial innovator.
Yes, and we
We have
put it on
time?
the yes we can. Actually, it's a good topic because we are formalizing it. In the and it is part of the platform. We call the platform Riding the Wave as an intermediate name, and Riding the Wave comes from the idea that there's a wave coming over Germany from Asia, especially, and the wave means lower prices, lower wages, competition technology-wise, and our first means would be to outreach to them and find out whether their company is able to innovate at all. And that would go into the direction where I talked about this brewery and the shandy product. And what we tell them is, what we must tell them is that they do not need to set up a whole department of 10 people with an engineer in the driver's seat and invest $1 million or $2 million to innovate something. So
I'm laughing because one of the people in my startup community call their company Ride the Next Wave.
yeah, see, so I call it an intermediate name because we needed a name for the baby. So when you say Ride a Wave in our company, everybody would know about what you're talking. But we need to give it.
It's a project until you branded a new brand. Yeah.
Yeah. So probably it would have a German name and not an English name because we are addressing Germans in the first place. So so we tell them, hey, what you need is you need one person who would drive the whole thing, and that person ideally would be a serial innovator, and for a serial innovator, you need to have these qualities, and I would say that 90% of the qualities of a serial innovator are those of an entrepreneur, plus some extra qualities. And what I know is that there are much less serial innovators than entrepreneurs. And
But Martin, your
yes,
first part of your test,
yes,
was that
yes.
to decide whether or not the candidate is a serial innovator or an entrepreneur?
And
Refresh our memory here.
and the first test is the one that discerns whether there is entrepreneurial spirit in that person or not. Very
Okay,
simple.
so I got a 19 out of 20 on the first one, but the
Yes.
second one, you said I'm not a serial innovator.
Yes, the test probably said that you're not a serial innovator because I know from experience that you are not an easy character. And
Well,
you might
what does that mean? What does that mean? You know?
it may include that you are frustrated easily when you don't have immediate success. That is one of the points that discern. So a serial innovator, different from an entrepreneur, is not frustrated when he does not immediately see that there's a success in what he does. That's one of the signs. Another sign is that a serial innovator doesn't care whether he gets the credit for his success. The serial innovator is someone who looks at the success of the company more than his own personal success. That's a second one that makes it. A serial innovator is someone who is politically more savvy than an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs usually are quite. I'm now using a clinical psychology name, subclinically psychopathic. And that means that they have a special personality trait that makes them quite robust when it is about social behavior. And when I say robust, that means the inner empathy is relatively low. And on the other hand, the successful entrepreneurs, they behave very socially when they talk with a client, a potential customer. That's how they are successful. But internally, when they are in their own company, they can be quite tyrannic, for example, or narcissistic, or Machiavellistic. And serial innovators, they are much more, how to say, socially savvy. So you would find psychopaths among them, but there are very seldom psychopaths as a narcissist or as an open psychopath, but they can have Machiavellistic traits, but also very unlikely because a good serial innovator is a very nice and amiable person, and an entrepreneur, not necessarily. I would say
Okay,
that.
Mark,
Yes,
if you were to give your pair of tests, let's
yes,
say 10 very successful innovators, give
yes,
it to Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Thomas Edison, Leonardo da Vinci, people that don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk.
yes,
So, you're claiming clinical psychology can be applied to these people, but as I
yes.
think of them, they're all so different. Yeah, I mean, Steve Jobs and Tesla, I mean, they were all criticized for all these different personalities. How can you possibly conclude anything about your two tests?
No, the two tests are they are not clinical. These tests are made to sort out those who are clearly not entrepreneurs. It's not about telling. It's not. I don't see it as a success. If you have 19 of 20 traits that make an entrepreneur, because that test has. You cannot use that test for clinical psychology evaluation, for
But
personality
how
evaluation.
do, how do you think those people that I just listed would score on your test? Would they
They
all be
have 20.
serial in it?
Of those, I've seen the analysis of Elon Musk and of Steve Jobs, and they've scored 21 of 20 in the first test.
Okay, how about Nicholas Tesla, who did all the great electrical things 100 years ago? How would he score?
Nikola Tesla was a high
Yeah.
creativity, was definitely a high creativity guy, and very,
Was he
very intelligent.
okay, but was he an entrepreneur and serial innovator scoring 21 on everything or not?
I actually, Michael, huh. I'm not doing, also I'm not analyzing each and every one around me or I read about. So I focus on controlled environments, and it's also quite some work to give a detailed analysis of a personality. It's not something that I can do within 5 minutes or so. It would take me hours, and then I could give you a qualified insight. But what I can tell you is, in the Credentialix environment, we have psychologists who do that for the people that apply there. And for some projects we require it, and for others we don't. It's a feature of the project. And the main problem is I wanted to automate the onboarding of Credentialix. And it's not so much about finding out what is the better entrepreneur or the better serial innovator, and whether is one with 18 of 20 better than one with 17 of 20. That's not the issue. The problem is that from what I have seen, there are some companies, and the people should really not become entrepreneurs. They may be good inventors, but they don't have what is required for being an entrepreneur. And the first test would sieve them out. That is 50% of the people who want to set up their own company shouldn't do it because they don't come with a personality. That's it. It's more something to get out, and then only those that are high in the entrepreneur personality traits area, only those would then qualify for the second test, and then we can tell them, hey, do you really want the risk of setting up your own company? Because with your personality, you could also become a very respected and honored serial innovator in a much larger company. It's about showing them where they come from. But we don't even send the second test to those who do not even qualify for this entrepreneurial personality. So that's the background. And the test that I've sent to you is also in the first stage. With the results that I got, and also I calibrated this with other tests. I have a 20 hours long entrepreneur test. So I can do 10 or 11 tests that I have selected from more than 150 personality tests. And I can tell you very specifically where your strong and your weak points are. I know also about my own weak points, for example. And I could do that, but again, that would cost me 20 hours of my work time, and I wouldn't do it. But that's something that others should do, and they would get paid for that. So what we want is we want really to help the people to find their calling or their sweet spot where they should be. And what we do not want are people who do not have any of those traits that are required for running an enterprise or company. I hope that is sufficient. And it's quite from my point of view, it says pretty much everything. So the first test would be a bit scrambled so that you cannot see where the questions go. So in practice, when we do it, so I mix the questions and I also reword them so that for some you have to answer with no and not with yes. So it's not really obvious what we expect from the people who take part. It could be that if you do the same test again, Michael, that you would even score as a 20 or 21, or maybe only as a 10, because I believe that many of those who did the test realized already what they would need in order to qualify as an entrepreneur. But thank you for taking part, and I will definitely keep you in the loop with the next versions of the test.
Thanks, Martin. Thank you.
Yes.
That was very, very useful. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Okay, thank you all for taking part in our talk today. I enjoyed it again very much. You helped me so much for focusing better on what we do. See you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oops.
Bye.